In this video, I'm going to show you some tips and tricks on how to get better battery life on your Z Fold 7. Yes, it's only got a 4400 milliamp battery, 25 watt charging. You want to maximize the battery life as much as possible. So I'm going to show you how to do that in this video, but also just one common sense thing real quick. Just so we're on the same page here, this screen uses less power than this screen because it's half the size. So the more you use the inside screen, the more it's going to burn up the screen over the outside. Not trying to discourage you from using the screen because the inside screen is beautiful and glorious and thin and all those great things. But yeah, I use a lot of stuff on the front screen. Also, just another GWiz tip. When you're at home on Wi-Fi, you're going to have better battery life than you do if you're out on 5G or even more so than 4G LTE. 4G LTE uses less battery than 5G traditionally. So yes, when you're at home, make sure on Wi-Fi. That's going to help out and go a long way. If you're at work, if you're somewhere familiar that has a Wi-Fi hotspot, go ahead and use that. Wi-Fi is your friend. Now, we can go into the settings here. So we'll swipe down. Let's take a look at some of the quick stuff. So we've got what's called right here is Performance Profile. So we'll hover over that and press down and hold it. So what you can do under Performance Profile is you can have it on Standard, which provides the recommended balance between processing speed, battery, and cooling. And then Light Mode, which prioritizes battery life and cooling efficiency over processing speed. And traditionally, this meant that there would be a 15% reduction in the overall CPU power. That means less than ever now, because this is like a 4.4 gigahertz chip. So even if you take 15% off the top, even if you take 15% off the top and use Light Mode, you're still going to get more power out of your chip than last year's Snapdragon 8 Generation 3, which is a ton of power, by the way. And then also, just to let you know, it doesn't apply to games. You can manage game performance and game booster settings. I use standard mode for the first 2 weeks I used this, and I switched to light mode. I even tested it out on standard, with majority using front screen, but also using considerable amount on the inside screen. I got 6.5 hours of battery life with 20% battery left. So I could have gone over 7. I do get all day battery life on this, and I definitely do since I switched it over to light mode. I haven't noticed any difference whatsoever. I've been using light mode. It's still way more powerful than the Snapdragon 8 Generation 3 from last year. So there's that. You can also use standard. So that's something that's going to be in the drop down settings here. And if it's not, you can of course add it on there by using the little pencil edit button here. You can click this to edit, and then you can add and remove different action buttons. So there's lots of different action buttons you can add and put in there. So that is nice. Now, just going to throw something out there as well. Low power mode is not the same thing as the performance profile. A performance profile, it basically just throttles it back like 15%. But like low power mode is something that is going to be a lot different. And that's going to be under power saving. So if you turn that on, if we press and hold that, you'll be able to see it limits CPU speed to 70%. And then, of course, you can toggle these on and off. You can turn off always on display, decrease brightness by 10%, set motion smoothness to standard, turn on dark mode, set screen timeout to 30 seconds. So these are all things that I kind of recommend a lot of times anyway. I don't use always on display because it needlessly burns up the battery for no reason. So if you find that when you're leaving your phone and you're not using it much, but the battery's still draining, it's likely the culprit is always on display or an app running in the background. So this is what happens when you have power saving mode. So I do not use that unless it's like an emergency, and then you go ahead and use that. And if you want to maximize power savings, you can do this option on the bottom that says limit apps and home screen. So allow only selected apps, limit all background activity, turn off edge panels, turn off dark mode, and all that stuff to get like the most maximum energy savings possible. So let's go into the settings. So once we get into the settings, a lot of the stuff we're going to do here is going to be in the display. The display is really the big area where the most power is used. So use dark mode over light mode. So light mode, you have to illuminate all these pixels on the screen with this bright white color, and that uses more energy. Use dark mode. It doesn't impact the performance of your phone at all, but it saves you battery. And then you've got dark mode settings. You can have it where it turns on as scheduled. Some people like to do that where it's light mode during the day and dark mode at night. Brightness. Here's another thing. You can use adaptive brightness. Adaptive brightness adapts the brightness of the screen based off the ambient light around you. So if it's super bright, it's going to dim. If it's super dark, it's going to get brighter. I never really found Android auto brightness to be all that great. I always leave mine off, but depending on where you leave it, like I usually leave mine on like 70%, 75%, and I like it bright because I don't see too good. If you turn it down though, the lower the screen brightness, the more battery life you're going to get. So find like a comfortable middle ground where it's not too bright, but it's not too dim. And then I say go with that. Extra brightness. So you can use this to increase the brightness of the screen. Like right now, you may be able to detect a little bit of difference. It's just making it brighter, especially whenever you're out underneath the sun. That is important, but it uses more battery. So be cautious with that. Motion smoothness. This is the movement of the phone screen. So we talk about 120 hertz all the time. 120 hertz, 20 hertz, 120 hertz. That's what this is. Adaptive refresh rate. It means that it's going to get smoother animations and scrolling by automatically adjusting your screen to refresh rates up to 120 hertz. If you put it on standard, it's stuck on 60 all the time. You're going to save battery that way. You're going to have half the refresh rate. It's going to use half the energy to reproduce the images on the screen to refresh them. Then we get into motions. Okay, that's motion smoothness. Screen mode. I don't really find that's going to change much with your battery settings. Now, what you can do is screen timeout. So screen timeout, I have it on 2 minutes because I'm always doing videos and I hate how it closes on me all the time. But if I were a more prudent person and not editing and shooting videos and all sorts of stuff all the time, I would have it on 30 seconds. Why? Because that's plenty of time to keep the screen on so you can use it, but plenty enough time that, okay, I've probably lost my attention or my interest, and I'm going to save battery. So the lower the screen timeout, the less time it takes to turn off on its own when you're not using it, the more battery you'll have. And then you can turn off edge panels in the taskbar. Those two things will save battery because they won't have the stuff loaded over to the side always sitting there. So I don't use a taskbar. I don't use edge panels. And then you can do some other stuff too here inside the phone. So we can turn off always on display. So that's going to be a lock screen in AOD. So I have mine turned off. See right here, little option, always on display, off. But what you can do is customize it to where it does use less energy. So that is an option. But I'm just perfectly happy not using it because it does save a decent amount every day on battery life, not always trying to keep the screen on when you're not using it. Albeit a nice feature, I feel like we need more battery before we can really take that seriously. So there's that. And then other stuff, we're going to go into battery. So once we get into battery, here we go. We take a look at background usage limits. This right here is important. Put unused apps to sleep. When you're not using apps, you don't want them siphoning off data and running in the background. That's something that will kill your battery even faster too. So make sure you keep that on so that it doesn't keep using the unused apps and sending data and background information and all that stuff. That is very important. And then sleeping apps, you can put stuff in here you don't want running all the time because there's some stuff that just kind of feels like it takes over your phone. So you can adjust that as well. And all that stuff is really, it's going to get you better battery life with this phone. A lot of it is the screen, a lot of it is the processor, everything else. I mean, yeah, you can add and remove more features. That's going to clean up your battery life even more. But I feel pretty comfortable with the way this is set up. And this is how mine's set up. I showed you. There's always more stuff that you can do. Anything you turn off feature-wise is always going to be a positive for your battery. If you want to leave it on, that's the thing. You shouldn't have to compromise too much with this phone. The only thing I really have turned off is always on display, and I also have the brightness. I usually keep it about 70-80%. I do keep it pretty bright. If you keep that lower, maybe around 50%, that's really going to save you a lot of battery as well. And then, yeah, anything that's not going to have the phone screen on all the time, because the phone screen is the biggest proponent of wasting battery. Again, depending on how much you use the front screen, what your balance is with using the interior screen, that is definitely going to affect your overall battery life, whether you're on 5G, whether you're on 5G, whether you're on LTE, that's going to impact your battery life. And then just a lot of the individual settings that I've shown you in here, those are real common, popular ones that I mess with to try and get the best battery life out of mine. But again, the only thing I've got turned on for me is the light mode, and I have dark mode on. So I have light performance mode turned on, and then I have dark mode for my screen. That helps kind of keep things lowered. But overall, this is a couple of things that you can do to get better battery life out of your phone. Hopefully it helps. Hopefully there's some nice tips and tricks for you, just so you could get a feel for what's going on. And I've been wanting to make this video for a little bit, so I've really been enjoyed the Z Fold 7. Like I said, it gets me all day battery, so hopefully it gets you all day battery. And yeah, things are going to drain the battery. If you're using the camera, you're recording 8K video, yeah, you're going, or 4K video even, you're going to burn up the battery faster. If you're playing high-end games, you're going to burn up the battery faster. If you just use it for normal day-to-day stuff, you're actually going to get pretty decent battery life, and I don't think you'll be heartburned too much over it. So that's all I got in this video. Any questions, comments, gripes, concerns, complaints, all that stuff, please, of course, go to the comment section. I'll do my best to get back with you. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.